Hello everybody, welcome back with another episode of The Binding of Isaac Repentance. Or should I just scream hello every episode? I don't really know. We're starting off with Mongo Baby today. And I decided to do a nice Lazarus run. Because it is one of those characters that I need. But I make a huge mistake this run. Just a spoiler alert. Just a spoiler alert. And we will be getting to that much later, much later on than you think. But see if you spot the mistake. And that is going to be what the topic is about today in this episode. Mistakes that we made. Because it's going to be a long one. It's definitely going to be a long one. And it's very interesting to me. Very, very interesting to me on how much mistakes we can make, even in a year or a day, or it's just over life. And it is just very interesting to me on how many mistakes we could personally make. I mean, partially, mistakes are one of those things where I feel like we could call ourselves out on and then just make ourselves better at the end of the day. And then it's also one of those things where some mistakes we just can't fix until it's too late, or however long life takes to virtually fix that. Where some could be small by bombing the donation machine, as you see. Or some mistakes you basically react to just to push ahead and then fix later on. It's very interesting. And honestly, it's one of those episodes where I honestly didn't know what to talk about. Where I'm just like, I wish I had the morale to always talk, which is very funny to me. But it's one of those moods where I'm just like, no, I'm good. And it's somewhat of like, I would never ever call YouTube or Twitch a mistake that I made. Never. Even though it could be so stressful, some things are just hard to push through, if you will. But one of my biggest mistakes is, honestly, I give up on people way too easily. Like, I just don't care. And it's a very big problem, in my opinion, where I'm just like, people just don't affect me. And burning bridges is a very, very easy thing to do now these days. And I've talked about it a little before in previous episodes, but truly, wholeheartedly, I just think burning bridges is one of those things where someone could do something that could just get under your skin, and you just cross them out of your life. And you're just like, I'm done. I'm done with you. And that is a very, very big problem that I have, where it's sort of just like I lose interest. I wish I didn't really have that morale, and it's one of those things where that was the seed. The seed was okay. You fooled me twice past me. That wasn't very nice. But yeah, that is one of my biggest decisions that I think I personally ever made. And another one is just being so hard on yourself, where I'm just like, I can't get anything done. And once you focus so much on the negative, in my opinion, everything just crumbles. And hey, we finally got Luna. I believe Luna was one of the things that we were missing in the item room as well. Because it's weird. It's weird to not stress about certain small things in life, and just trying to make yourself better at the end of the day, and then realizing, oh my god, I have a problem. But yeah, and then the people that try to help you, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, where it's just how life is sometimes, where life could honestly, certain people come in your life, some people go, and you know, you can't really have that grudge where you did something that upset me, so now I am basically just going to cut you out of my life. I personally feel like that is a very big fault that I had, and a very big mistake that sometimes mistakes are things that you just can't get over. And it's very fascinating, and, you know, one thing that I like to do is just make people think in a weird way about, hey, this is what the topic is. Let's talk about the topic, where Luna's blessing really helped us out today. But it's just one of those things where I don't know if people want me to talk about the game. I really don't. Like 2023, as I've said before, and while I'm recording these videos, you know, 365 is almost done, and somehow, some way, I believe I screwed up along the way, and I just don't know how, but I'm not really surprised if I did screw up with YouTube, and, you know, every episode is supposed to be out. I don't know. I mean, if I didn't screw up, then we would have 365 episodes by the end of the year, and I don't think we're gonna. I think if this is 328, and there's only 11 days left, like, I missed like 20 days somehow, some way, shape, and form, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And that's the thing where I'm sorry if I did screw up in any way or anything, but I've also realized priorities. I've learned that, and sometimes it's just way too late to not really, like, YouTube is very different from going live, where I keep on using the two examples a lot, where I apologize, and that is going to stop sooner or later, but it's just a big thing in my life right now, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And the stress and the strenuous tasks that I put on myself is just not very hard. Like, it's very hard for me to be like, I don't care. But a very big part of me is just like, you could do better, and that's virtually what I really thrive to do each time that I do an episode, where it's just one of those things where I'm just like, you can't really fix it until it's too late, and that is a very big mistake that I've made in the past, where sometimes I just waste more time talking and re-recording than even playing the game. And it's extremely frustrating, in my opinion. But I've realized there are better things to do, where if I need a break, then I just take a break. And I know it sounds very simplistic to do, and be like, oh, well, of course, if you need a break, if you're overworked, you're not going to put out the product, or, you know, feel as energized and everything. And, you know, for me, I'm actually on my 5th day on getting happy. 5th day straight. And it's a very big step for me, and, you know, like I said, I've been taking tea and a mood booster, if you will, where it's more of a vitamin, apparently, than a pill, but supplements are still supplements, but it's working. And that is one mistake where sometimes my pride gets in the way, where vitamins aren't bad. Okay, vitamins are not bad if it's just trying to help you, or medication, or whatever the factor you may be. But sometimes you just need to put your pride aside. Do think, like, you'll never know if it helps you until you do. And a mistake that I have is being very stubborn. And you know, that was one thing that I really did struggle with, where I'm just like, I can't really afford to be miserable or be sad until I basically get better. And putting myself foot forward, and it was a very big thing that I personally think I had to do. And listen. I had to listen a lot, but not to the point where I needed justification. Where no matter how many helpful videos I've watched and during my YouTube career, whatever factors you may have, I sorta have to say that in my mind I've always said I did something wrong. And this channel is very, very new. But some things I just won't commit to. I just won't commit to because it's one of those things where another thing is I just don't like to conform. And, you know, the analytics are a very hard thing because it's sort of like, I don't know, changing the motivation that I have to do this, where it's just like, well, this is what you have to do, and, you know, promote yourself and everything, and I'm like, I just don't like doing that, like, so 2023 is, I'm gonna be basically not promoting myself at all, which I really don't want to do. And it's not like posting videos or posting clips or whatever, but it is one of those things where it eats me. It eats me because telling, like, I watched the video actually before I started this, and it's just like, tell people to subscribe more often. I'm like, why? Well, because that's how you grow, and this is how, because, like, the video was basically telling people, hey, people are stupid, tell people to subscribe so they do it. And I'm just like, that's not how I think, though. That's not how I think. You're you know, you're an amazing YouTube company, and, you know, you're telling people are stupid if you're a YouTuber, where it's just like, well, it just doesn't matter. And it just really got under my skin, where I'm just like, yeah, like, have I really been pushing my content? Absolutely not. Would it help? Probably. But it's just, conforming is a very, very common thing with media, with life, trying to fit in. And I never did that, so I can't really say, but as an adult, basically conforming to the algorithm and everything, it sucks. It really does, and I just don't like doing it. And, you know, I hopefully... It's one of those things where if you're passionate about something and you know that you're doing something wrong, you're either blaming it on you or the system itself. And, you know, hopefully I can find a happy ground and take from there, because basically when I told myself with Twitch earlier this year, and when I came back, I said to myself, well, I'm going to be happier, I'm going to do certain things, and I did them, and lo and behold, I'm getting more traction there than I could ever ask for. And I'm very grateful, and YouTube is a new baby to me, where I'm just like, I'm basically 1 year, I'm 4 years behind on YouTube, where, you know, I never had regrets on starting this earlier, because I think I had to learn. I had to learn each baby, Twitch, YouTube, and they're all different creatures, which is very interesting to me. Where I never ever will say it's a regret or a mistake that I had, because it's one of those things also where if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And then that was a very big mistake that I personally suffered, where, hey, one of my favorite items, Explosivo, where one of my things where if it happens, it happens. And no, certain things you have to make happen. And I think sometimes you could realize that too late as well, which is interesting. But certain things are out of your control. putting so much pressure on yourself to be like, well, this has to happen. This is all that I have, and you know, yada yada yada. And that's a very big mistake that I had, where I'm just like, sometimes I'm so chill, or I'm so angry, where there has to be a balance. And if you don't balance it, then you're sort of just screwed. And I learned that, but I had to learn that the hard way. And I feel like if life is filled with hard challenges, where you need to learn, or you just won't grow as a human being, in my opinion. And then you could either complain about it, pass on the information, which I try to do as much as possible, and just take things from there. Where, you know, be if you're older or younger or anything in between, it's one of those things where I really say where we all learn differently, and we all process things. And you know, some people are automatically have clicked off this video because it's just like, well, I don't like the topic that he's talking about because I'm a perfect human being or whatever, or I'm here for the game, and I understand that. And it's one of those things where certain things I take the wrong way as well, where, oh, I'm just trying to help, but I didn't like how you phrased it, and my brain freaks out, where it's just like, I am confused. So, for me, another mistake that I had somewhat is where you don't have to respond to everything. And it's super weird, where I used to be that person where I'm just like, oh my god, you know, always stick up for yourself. And then sometimes when you read things or whatnot, I'm reading them too quickly, or I overanalyze, where I'm going to use this person as an example, where, because this happened very recently, and you know, when I stopped analyzing, oh my god, like it was an interesting topic. But somebody said with the Ratchet & Clank series, much kudos to you, bro. You don't see Ratchet & Clank anymore. Good luck to you. And like the first glance, like the first 5, 10, 20 minutes, rereading that comment, it irked me. It really irked me, where I'm just like, why are you giving me good luck? I don't understand this. Like, why? Like you don't know me. And I took it like that. And I'm like, wow. Like, who is this person trying to give me good luck? You know, sounds like I already failed. Be like, it's like my condolences, you know, once you get fired. You know, that's how I took about it. I'm like, who does this person think they are? And I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are they saying good luck? Are they saying they're watching the series? And I just didn't know. Okay, and for me, I was very proud of myself at that very moment, where I'm just like, wow, I know I have changed. And you know, good luck sometimes in the internet world doesn't mean good luck. And it's interesting and it's weird, but that's how I took it, where I'm just like, why is this person giving me luck? I don't understand. I don't like it. They're cursing me out. And you know, even though they didn't say anything bad or anything, my brain took it as like, they already think you're a failure, give up, like they're giving up on you. And I'm like, what? And I had to pause. I genuinely had to pause right there. And yeah, you know, and that was a regret that I had, where I never took things the bad way. I overanalyze things, and that's just as bad, where I'm just like, okay. But for me, my process, especially when I'm live, I'm very chill, I'm very laid back, where if we're having a conversation, and if I say something that's not PG or whatever, I expect you to use the same language, but we talk differently. We use different euphemisms and everything, mannerisms and everything in general. But when it's a comment, I just almost guarantee that the commenters are how I'm like in my own head, if that makes sense, where I'm just like, wow, you suck at what you're doing, so I expect the comments to be like that, and I'm so guarded where I'm just like, oh, okay. Where, especially if you're live and you're watching me live and you compliment, you know, the content or me in general, I will always call you a liar, and I'm dealing with that. But, it's a problem that I had. It's a mistake I've made for way too long, and, you know, the first problem about a lot of mistakes, they're learning things. They could be very simple on, like, not studying for a test, or, you know, wishing you tried harder, and maybe you're trying too hard, and, you know, you're trying to accept somebody where, oh my god, like, I don't like this, or whatever the factor may be. And then they could go from life-altering mistakes where you're not, you know, you don't forgive a family member, or whatever, or not bombing that mushroom to get a mushroom all stats upgrade. So it could range, and that's the very thing about a mistake, where I think mistakes are just one of the biggest things to learn from. Like, I think sometimes you could learn from more of a mistake than the right way, in my opinion. And I think that's more of emotional standpoint than, you know, I think you can learn from doing bad things than wrong, but sometimes it's way too late to do that. So, you know, sealing, you know, that's the biggest way of, you know, I made a mistake, I apologize, but it's one of those things also in my mind where sometimes it's way too late to be forgiven. It's way too late. The damage is already done, and certain mistakes can't be forgiven, but that's my opinion. Now, if you're your own mistake, then it's a totally different ballgame, because you're the only person that can be forgiven. And we get technology zero, which is a very, very interesting setup that we have. But, yeah, a lot of mistakes are your own fruition, and a lot of people could make them early and make them habits. They can make them later in life, but nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Where one of the most common mistakes I've already talked about is conforming. Is generally conforming to people, especially in high school, where everybody has cliques, and every year, every era, cliques have changed, and it's a fascinating thing. It's generally a fascinating thing. Cliques have changed throughout the years, but they've always been there, and I've never conformed in any way as a pre-adult, you know, high school. I kept to myself, and, you know, my mistakes could be different than your eyes. You know, it's one of those things where life's too short. Life's too short to, you know, do certain mistakes out there. And, you know, if you want to conform to fit in, you know, my mindset was very toxic for a very long time, where it's just like, oh, well, I don't want to think like that or whatnot, and that's been a big mistake that I had. That was the toxicity that I had, a very big mistake that all I thought was negative. All I thought was negative, and it's not fun to live your life where you're just like, oh, well, you know, all doom's gonna happen, woe is me, where I had a woe is me phase where everything's happening to me. And then I realized where I'm just like, oh no, it's honestly just not happening to me, but certain people just don't like to talk about what they're going through or whatever, where it's not a woe is me phase, where stuff happens to all kinds of people, but if you start feeling bad for yourself, then you just don't get any better, and you don't improve, and certain things happen. Certain things happen to millions of people every single day. I've always said where it could be worse, but also it's happening to you. Like, don't just brush it off, and that was me, where I'm just like, oh well, who cares if it's happening to me? Somebody's got it worse. Where you're your top priority, and it's not good. Push feelings away or until they go away, and you're just like, yes. Just because it's happening to me doesn't mean that it's not important. And that was a very, very big, bad mental state that I had. But hey, a Ouija board. Look at me. And, only focusing on yourself is bad, but it's also realizing, hey, look, I'm a top priority. I care about me, because at the end of the day, nobody's really going to focus on me like you care for yourself. So, very, very bad mistake. And, that's just how that's a big mistake that I failed, and, it's about time that I changed my aspect, where a lot of these episodes of Isaac is to either make people think, or no, mainly think. And if they want to share in the comments, then they share in the comments on, what they feel about and everything. I'm just, I've always said on here, I'm a loser trying my best, and, that's really how I always think. And, it's interesting. It very much is interesting. Everybody can think. Everybody has different topics. Everybody has different ways of thinking, and everybody's mistake is where, sometimes sticking with your guns is great. My morals will never change no matter what. But knowing when to swallow your pride and trying something new, it's an amazing feeling. And I'm just gonna put it there for now, because my biggest example is, hey, life is not all dreary. Where it's not that I said, oh yes, I'm gonna live a miserable, full life, but my brain process was like, hey, I'm half empty. What's stopping me from thinking I'm half full? Nothing is really stopping me but myself. And it sounds so easier said than done. But, I'm giving it a whirl. I'm 5 days in. My mindset has changed, and my energy has changed, and so many things have changed where, I love it. I love feeling happy, because it's easier. I think both ways are super easy to spread negativity, positivity. I think they're both in the same pretty much algorithm and mindset, where I know the world isn't full of unicorns and rainbows, and I've never pushed yes, follow the world, follow your dreams. I've never been like that. But it's easier to frown than to smile. It truly is. We have more muscles in our body. Certain people grew up with smiles, and certain people grew up with frowns. We sort of make our own feelings about that. And me being 27, figuring out, hey, I want to try smiling and looking on the light, and, trying to spread that, and, it feels good. It feels good. And, there's certain things that I personally won't do mentally, like doing drugs or anything, but trying ways and like drinking more energy tea or drinking more calming tea and falling asleep better. Like, this is 5 days I could generally say to myself, I slept so good by drinking sleepy time tea. And it was a suggestion that I got, and I really love that suggestion. I'm like, oh, I love tea. Why, like, I feel stupid for not trying it sooner. You know, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, my opinion should mean nothing to people. This content is literally to be like, hey, let's talk about it. Hey, and if you agree, coolio. If not, then, you know, click forward. I mean, my analytics are so all over the place with Isaac, especially because it's a constant that'll never go anywhere, just like Splatoon is a constant on Twitch. It fluctuates, where I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. And my mistake isn't, you know, I never want to come to the question where I stress out about Twitch, I stress about YouTube. Stressing is a weird way for my brain to be like, hey, I care. And doesn't that sound a little crazy? Like, I'm stressing because I care too much? That doesn't make sense. You know, if I care, then that means, like, I should, you know, be happy about it, or whatever the factor may be. But that's just not how it works. Oh, I was scared here, where I'm like, I'm going to die. So, I mean, having less stress and being more calm, now I'm, like, at an imbalance right now, where I'm just like, well, why is my positivity through the moon? And that's basically what it is, where I'm just like, my positivity is way, I wouldn't say it's out of whack, but it's something that I'm not used to. And I like that I'm not used to, because it throws life a total curveball, if you will, where I'm just like, oh, well, I don't shout as much as I do. Yeah, I get passionate, but it's a totally different ball game. And it's a very weird feeling, but a good feeling. I don't want to wake up every day and be like, oh, well, I'm gonna be miserable or I'm gonna be sad. Be like, oh, well, let me smile a few times and see how life goes. I've realized I'm never using the sun card again. Just an FYI, that reverse sun card, yeah, I don't want to. But yeah, no, it was a mistake on my part. It was a mistake on my part, because a lot of things that I'm doing right, in my brain, I'm just not saying that I'm doing it right, if that makes sense. Where I'm just like, oh, well, I'm a good talker, I'm a good listener, whip-de-doo. But I never give myself enough credit. You know, I don't like saying, oh, well, next year I'm gonna do this, next year I'm gonna do that. But it's true, I'm gonna wait until next year for certain things. But mindset things, I don't like change. It's easier to change in my mind. It very much is easier to be like, well, I'm going to do this year now. Like, I'm not gonna wait until I'm not gonna wait until next year, because mental stuff can't wait, in my opinion. Mental stuff is top priority on my part, where I like it, I love it, and you know, you're sort of stuck with yourself, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but I truly believe, like, hey, the only way that's gonna fix your mindset is if you fix it yourself. And I'm very happy where, sounds dumb, sounds really dumb, but that's just how I handle things. And you know, via certain things, like I've said earlier in this video, is I don't really like to conform, and I don't really want to conform to the YouTube algorithm, and I hope I complete that, where I'm just like, oh yes, I don't want to be that person that tells you to subscribe and, you know, be that other YouTuber that thinks everybody's an idiot. So I'm gonna figure out a way around that, because I don't really want to. Where in a weird way, like a mindset should be like, oh well, I'm proud of how I do things. You know, I should say, oh yes, subscribe, because I'm proud of the content that I put out. You know, that it's an amazing different way to look at things, isn't it? You know, I'm changing the game because I'm changing the ways that I don't like it. So it's a very interesting factor where you could sort of twist and turn everything in your favor. And isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy to even think about? Be like, oh well, I'm positive and I'm happy, but I just didn't look at it that way. Where I've always been that person to look at everything from different angles, and that's how I like to be. And I know a lot of people aren't like that, and a lot of people just don't care, and, you know, I'm okay. And then, you know, a big problem that I had to face was, okay, well, people don't care about me. Does that mean I basically say screw them and, like I said, cut them out of my life? Because I don't think that's right if I do that now. But I also really think that I shouldn't really care, if that makes sense. So it's a very different, interesting way of looking at things. And if you agree with it or not, I think you could always flip stuff. You could always flip it around. And you know, as long as it's in your favor, like, you can't win every battle. You can't win every battle. I've even lost battles with myself, and I don't even know how that's possible. But I have, and I've grown from it. Well, I think we could have got Guppy by now, which is very dumb to look at. But yeah, no, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and you know, certain things that I said, oh, I'll never ever do because that's stupid. Now I'm doing several years later down the road. So it's dumb, but you never know until you try it. You know, it's the simple thing on. I've always said people can't change; that you could only improve. I don't know, maybe my mindset is growing from that, or changing from that. I don't really know, and I don't think about it, because you either live enough that you, like, I can't think of myself in a positive or negative way. I just can't, because if I do, then I overanalyze, and, you know, I never want to go back and be like, oh, hey, I hate myself. I hate myself today, or, you know, whatever the factor may have for me. But there's certain things that I know that I'll never ever do again, which is fascinating, which is very, very fascinating. And you know, I'm gonna give one more example on how mistakes were made. But in my mind, it was in a positive outlook, but in reality, it was sort of a negative outlook, because it's how you visualize it. You know, when I first started YouTube on my old account, my archive channel, and Twitch, I always said, you know, tell me how you feel about it, or whatever, and it was a main focus on, you know, people's feedback. And it's a very interesting thing to think of, where it's just like, oh, tell me how you feel, and if you don't say how you feel, then I'm gonna think that you just don't care. In reality, yeah, a lot of people just didn't care. But as soon as they gave me a topic or a suggestion, then I just rolled with it. I'm like, that's not how I should be, because sometimes I'm just gonna beat to my own drum most of the time, and why should I conform on what they have to say? Where I love people's opinions. I really do. What games to play, what topic to talk about. But then there's also, I shouldn't really be relying on that, you know. But that's how I was. And, you know, it was a mistake on my part, where nobody said, oh, don't be like that. You know, who cares? Where I had to realize it, this isn't working for me. And I basically said to myself, well, if I beat to my own drum with that, like, outside of the camera, why should I basically twist and turn on what some other person had to say on the internet? Wow, because I care and I want them to know that I care? People will never understand how much I care until I say, hey, I care about you. And it's how it is on the internet, where it's so different, where certain people think things differently, and, you know, they may overthink, they may underthink, but it's something that I didn't really put into perspective, where almost daily when I stream, it sounds weird, but it's true. A lot of people say, hey, I appreciate you playing with me. And in my joking mind, I'm like, huh? What do you mean, you know? And it's something that I didn't think about, where I'm just like, oh my god, they're grateful that I'm playing with them. And I'm grateful for, you know, playing with them live and communicating with them and everything. So it's really this perspective, like, I was blinded, where I'm just like, oh my god, you know, sometimes I just don't have to say that I appreciate them, because they could feel the same way, and, you know, I just don't know, because I say, hey, you don't always have to say your emotions to me, because 9 times out of 10, well, if I understand your emotions, or, you know, if I'm close to you, I already understand how you feel. I'm like, oh my god, it's the same way. Where I'm like, why is this person saying that they appreciate me while I appreciate them more? Where it's not always, it's almost never an appreciation contest, and I just didn't think about it. Where it's interesting to say, and it's interesting to hear and to think, but yeah, my mindset was totally changed on that again this year. I think truly, wholeheartedly, yeah, this year was one of my most growing years, and sometimes it takes a long time for people, where we all think of things differently, and I'm one of those people where if I have a problem, I'm just gonna deal with the problem. But if I don't think it's a problem, then I'm just basically gonna say, hey, this doesn't need to be changed or fixed, because I don't think of it as a problem. And then certain people in your life don't want to say it's a problem, because in their mind it's not a problem. So yeah, you know, being my biggest critic and being my biggest worst enemy, majority of the time I have to be like, hey, take a minute, breathe, calm down, where I have flaws and I've made mistakes, and sometimes, yeah, certain things slip up, for sure, but it's the way of handling them. And very, very, very bad mistake that I had is getting angry on Twitch a lot. And even though I realized, oh my god, this is people, I'm scaring people away, I was just like, well, I'm going to be true to myself, because, you know, sometimes it's not always rainbows and unicorns. And I'm like, oh my god, like, put my ego aside a little bit. A mistake that I made was that, you know, nobody wants to see toxicity. Nobody wants to have that toxicity in them. You know, I learned that. And I always knew that, but I was so stubborn to be like, well, I'm gonna finish this stream and, you know, blah blah blah, and overanalyze, and it's not good. You know, it sounds silly to say, just like, hey, I'm my own problem, this is a mistake that I made, and, you know, I don't want it to be too late. And even though sometimes mistakes happen, sometimes mistakes happen in your life that you just can't fix, or, you know, a simple apology can't go all the way anymore, or whatever the factor may be, via too much time has passed, or, you know, permanent damage was done. It's just always that time where, you could fix a lot of things, and there's certain mistakes that I look back on, I'm just like, oh my god, why did I do that? Why did I think like that? Why did I act like that? But it's too late. And that's a lot of things that, you know, happen. And that's life. Life is just a big learning lesson where, you know, we may not have a purpose, but no matter how you think about it, it's interesting. And, yeah, mistakes go a long way to making us who we are, from elementary school all the way up to the day that you die. Where the only reason why I say high school, and like, oh my god, like, oh, I made mistakes in elementary school and everything. A lot of mistakes are very minuscule when you're younger. Majority of the time, where one of my biggest mistakes that I remember was a mistake that I made where the cause was I was curious. I lifted up a barbell and it knocked me right in the head, where I could have been like, oh, I blame my parents for not, you know, looking after me or whatever. No, that's a me thing, because I wandered off. I basically have a scar from that still, and I remember it clear as day, where there was blood all over, where it's just like, well, what did you do? And that's the thing, where you're curious, and there's always a cause and effect reaction. And but it's really, you gotta blame yourself sometimes, and you gotta own up to it. You know, that's, if that's not it, where I never blamed anybody. To be like, oh, well, I'm so upset that somebody didn't like my video or whatever. Where I'm just like, no. You know, my mindset is, hey, if you like the video, then you do whatever you want. You're not new to YouTube, and I don't count you as an idiot, where I count you as an adult. And, you know, like, in certain people's minds, yeah, you know, that's not the right way to do it. And other people are happy that I don't treat them like an idiot. And other people are like, whoa, you're gonna let them say that? And, you know, whatever the factor may be, my mindset and how I act is different than how a lot of people act. But, you know, it's not that I don't care, because you have to value your life on the people's opinions and how they think of you. And because if you don't care on how other people think, you at least have to have some persons to sort of really keep you in check. And I'm very grateful that I do have a few people that I rely on, where I'm just like, oh, I actually really do care about what you think, and, you know, I hope, you know, I could impact them and whatnot. But, no, it's interesting. And sometimes a mistake happens where it's very minuscule, and it could pile up. You know, the mistake, if you haven't figured it out yet, you'll find out the mistake very, very soon. But if you know the mistake in this episode, please do let me know in the comments, because I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious, because you can only pick up the mistake that I made up to this point only for a few seconds. Only for a few seconds. And some people may have thought that the mistake is major, but we'll see. I guarantee you, in my mind, like, for example, people are going to be like, oh my god, the mistake is so major, I'm not going to watch this episode, or whatever. And then I'm like, I guarantee you, nobody will care about the mistake, but in my mind, everything is blown to proportions. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, let me know. While I'm there, but no. If you make mistakes out of molehills, certain things could just get out of the way. Hey, look at that. Look at that jazz. Oh, and this is really one of the only times I normally use ringworm as a trinket, which is so funny to me. And here we go. We're at the dogma fight. And we're home. Lovely, a trinket that doesn't benefit me, a bomb that almost doesn't benefit me at all, and Mum's Purse, which virtually almost means nothing, and I get a very useless trinket as well, Poker Chip. Poker Chip doubles the trunk space, gives you more chances at consumables, but also you could not get anything in that chest. So, but you get more things in the chest if you do it. So, Sackboy over here, in my opinion, is one of the best items in the game. It's an amazing item because it virtually takes a lot of pressure off you and just make the enemies just hate Sackboy. And, I mean, it's literally the black sheep of the game. And it's nice. But our build is so weird that I really, even though it was a mistakeful run, I really had to keep this run in because, one, I don't use ringworm. Two, I have Explosivo mixed with direction tiers, and it's just weird. It's just really weird. And also, one comment that I did get is, why do I always end the dogma scene, or the cutscene? Simply because, to my knowledge, they have never fixed the bug with dogma, where if you run the cinematic, your game can crash. And I've shown that off a few times, and it's only on PS5, to my knowledge, where it's a very, very bad glitch, to my knowledge, that they have not fixed. Maybe they did, because to my knowledge, I'm like one of the only people that does Isaac on PS5. You know, I don't really care. But a mistake that, the last mistake that I can really think of is not trying enough things, and I am giving a lot of things credit as trying new games, trying new experiences, and, you know, I hope you could come by twitch.tv/MrJoeWilde and check out the new changes, because, you know, a big thing that I've gotten several times is Twitch is so different than YouTube, where all my links are down below, copy that URL, and, you know, I hope you like, I hope you like it. I really, really do, and, you know, stop by, say hello, say you're from YouTube, because that'll give me a stupid little grin live, and, you know, you'll get me all tickly inside. But stay tuned for the new changes as well. Now, I could have picked up that trinket that dropped, but also, I don't think it really would have mattered. I don't think that would have mattered at all. So, yeah. And one thing that you should really do is, one thing that helped me, and it may not help you, or it may not help you, I don't know. But being an overthinker or being a quick thinker are two different things, but very can tell. For me personally, I have to take more time to think about things now. And instead of basically blowing the load or loading the gun too quickly, it was one of those things where sometimes you need to pause. And that is one of my biggest things that I wish I didn't do, where overthinking could just be worse as underthinking, or being too quick of a thinker, and just pausing sometimes, evaluating the situation before it is too late, unfortunately. And that is one of my biggest pieces of advice right now, where mistakes could be fixed, scars can heal over time, but most likely you're the person that could mend the mistake, and scars are there as scars, and you know, they heal over time, but you won't forget what you've done. That's basically life in a nutshell, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It's basically life in a nutshell. Because you're the only person to deter a scar and a memory. Yeah. And tainted memories are basically memories that you have, but tainted them in a good or negative fashion. Because if they're not tainted, then technically they're not real. Or if they are tainted, then they're not real. But that was a nice, interesting run. We beat Dogma Beast, and it was a very, very chaotic run. I don't think we would have died there anytime soon, because we had Explosivo, the best item in my opinion. Perfect. And remember, if you do have any topics down that you had in mind, please don't forget to comment down below on what character you want to see next. We're almost done with the challenges. And the biggest question that I keep on getting is I will be doing mods after the complete series, by the way. So once everything is done with the save file, then I will basically move on and have my way over there. Or Isaac could be done, but I don't think Isaac is going anywhere in my personal opinion. But don't forget to comment the question of the day as well. What is one mistake that you had, and how did you fix the mistake? And don't be like, oh, being born was a mistake, because that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true. I used to think that way too as well, and it's not a good way to think. Live your life one day at a time, because that's all you can really do. But trust me, if I could live my whole life in like a blink of an eye, but remember every day crystal clear, I probably would. It takes a lot of pressure off you. Sounds like a Rick and Morty episode. But perfect. Enjoy. I hope you're happy because you made me happy. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy the content. It is completely free as well, and check out the links down below in the comments down below. And let's find out that mistake, just in case if you're new to Isaac.
Okay, Daddy.
Okay, Daddy. Oh, God, I love that voice actor. Okay, Daddy.
Okay.
What if that's really their kid?
Isaac
Weird.
and his parents.
And let's see if Past Me actually recorded the mistake. Because I was very confused at this point. We didn't unlock anything as Lazarus. We beat the Beast. And I basically realized the mistake was I accidentally did the Beast instead of Mom. So I'm an idiot. I hope you enjoy. Take care, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.